The quiet sister. They say every family has one person who silently holds it together. The one who gives up their own dreams so others can build theirs. The one who stays behind, not because she must, but because she cannot walk away. This is the story of such a woman. A quiet sister who gave everything she had for the people she loved. Her name was Aisha. She was 20 when her world began to crumble. It started on a rainy evening, the kind of evening when the sky looks heavy with sadness. The house smelled of medicine and wet clothes. The walls were silent except for the sound of her mother coughing in the next room. Her father had just passed away after months of illness. Her two younger brothers, barely teenagers, stood near the doorway, their eyes wide and lost. In that moment, Aisha knew her life would never be the same again. Before that, she had been like any other young girl. She loved to draw, to paint, to dream about cities she had never seen. She wanted to study art, maybe travel somewhere near the sea, and live a life full of colors. But grief has a way of changing priorities. When her father died and her mother's health began to fail, Aisha understood that dreams would have to wait. She sold her sketchbooks to pay the electricity bill. She took a job at a small grocery store near the railway station. Every morning she would leave before sunrise, and every evening she would return home with tired hands and aching feet. Yet she never complained. She cooked for her brothers, washed clothes, cleaned the house, and sat beside her mother until late into the night. Her laughter slowly disappeared. Her world became a cycle of survival, working, caring, and worrying. People in the neighborhood would often say, "Aisha is strong." But they didn't see the tears she hid in the bathroom, the nights she stayed awake wondering how to pay for medicine, the moments she stood by the window watching trains leave town, imagining herself on one of them. She wasn't strong. She was simply doing what had to be done. The years passed quietly. Her brothers grew taller, went to school, and made friends. Her mother's health kept fading, and Aisha's youth faded with it. Sometimes she'd look at herself in the mirror and barely recognize the girl who once dreamed of painting oceans and sunsets. Her hands, once gentle and soft, had become rough from work. Yet there was a calmness in her eyes, the calm that comes when life teaches you to stop expecting more. When her youngest brother turned 18, he asked her once, "Appa, did you ever want to do something for yourself?" She smiled and said, "Maybe one day." But that day never came. By the time Aisha was 28, her mother passed away too. Her brothers left the town soon after. One went abroad for studies, the other to a bigger city for work. They promised to visit often, and they did for a while. But as time went on, the calls became shorter, the visits rarer. The house grew quiet again. She still cooked dinner for one. She still folded clothes that weren't hers. She still sat by the window at night, staring at the streetlights, unsure what she was waiting for anymore. One evening, while cleaning an old drawer, she found her old paintbrushes. They were dry and stiff, but she held them like fragile memories. She tried to paint again, but her hands shook. The lines came out uneven, the colors dull. It hurt, not because she had forgotten how to paint, but because she realized how long it had been since she'd done something just for herself. A few months later, she received a letter from her brother. It was handwritten, full of excitement. He had found a good job and wrote about his new life in the city, the people, the lights, the noise. At the end he wrote, "You made this possible, Appa. Everything I am is because of you." Aisha read that line again and again until her tears blurred the words. It was the first time in years she had cried out of something other than exhaustion. She held the letter close to her chest and for the first time in a long while, felt seen. Her sacrifice had not been forgotten. It had quietly shaped the lives of the people she loved most. Life moved forward, gently. The ache didn't disappear, but it softened. Aisha started teaching drawing to the neighborhood children. At first, it was just two girls who wanted help with their school projects. Then more children came. Soon her small living room turned into a little art class. She painted with them, laughed with them, and for the first time in years, the house felt alive again. The sound of children's laughter replaced the heavy silence that had filled her world for so long. Her paintings began to change too. They weren't about pain anymore. They were about life. She painted rain on rooftops, sunlight on leaves, the smiles of children, and once, a young girl standing on a train platform. watching the world go by. When someone asked who the girl was, she smiled and said softly, "Someone I used to be." Time, as it always does, kept moving. Her brothers eventually returned, grown men now, successful and full of gratitude. They insisted that Aisha stop working, that she finally rest and let them take care of her. She laughed and said, "I already have everything I need." And she meant it. Because peace had finally found her, quiet, humble peace. The kind that doesn't shout or sparkle, but sits gently beside you like an old friend. Every evening, Aisha would walk to the small hill behind her house to watch the sunset. She loved how the sky changed colors, gold, orange, then soft pink fading into night. She'd whisper a small prayer, not for herself, but for everyone who had ever sacrificed their dreams to keep others alive. She often thought about her younger self, the girl who once wanted to see the ocean. And though she never did, she no longer felt sad about it. Some dreams, she realized, don't need to come true to have meaning. Love had taught her that real strength isn't about winning or achieving. It's about enduring. It's about showing up, every day, for the people who depend on you. It's about finding beauty even in exhaustion. Hope even in silence. Aisha was never the sister who chased big dreams. She was the one who made it possible for others to chase theirs. That was her gift, her quiet kind of greatness. She never married. Not because she didn't want to, but because no one ever truly saw her. People often overlook the quiet ones. The givers, the caretakers, the ones who never ask for anything. But that never made her bitter. She believed that love, in its purest form, doesn't always come through romance. Sometimes it comes through duty, sacrifice, and care. As the years went by, she grew older but softer. Her face carried lines of love, not regret. Her eyes were tired but kind. Children from her art class grew up and often returned to visit her, bringing flowers, chocolates, or simply stories of their lives. To them, she was more than a teacher. She was home. One winter, her eldest brother came to visit with his wife and little daughter. The girl looked around the house, now filled with paintings, and asked, "Who painted all these?" Her father smiled and said, "Your Appa did." The little girl looked up at Aisha and said, "Will you teach me too?" Aisha smiled, her heart full. "Of course," she whispered. "That's what I love doing." That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Aisha sat near the fireplace and looked at her old painting. The one she had made years ago of a girl watching a train. She realized she wasn't that girl anymore. The world hadn't taken her dreams away. It had simply changed them. Her life wasn't small. It was vast in quiet, invisible ways. The warmth she had given to others had returned to her in echoes, in laughter, gratitude, and peace. Before she died, she painted one last picture. It was of the sea. The same sea she had once longed to see. In the painting, waves touched the sand, and a small wooden boat waited near the shore. Above it, she wrote a single line. "Home isn't where you stay. It's what you build." When her brothers found that painting after her passing, they hung it in their homes. And every time they looked at it, they thought of her. Her quiet smile, her tired eyes, her endless patience. They remembered how she carried their world when she had no one to carry hers. And they finally understood what real love looked like. She never became famous. She never traveled far. But she built a life that mattered. A life that left others better than she found them. A life that whispered instead of shouted, but still reached hearts. Even today, people in her neighborhood remember her kindness. The children she taught now teach others. The walls she once filled with laughter still echo her warmth. Her story didn't end with her. It lived on quietly, in every person she touched. And maybe that's what true greatness is. Not in living for yourself, but in leaving behind a piece of your light in others. Aisha's story reminds us that not all heroes are loud. Some live quietly, between pain and peace, giving everything and expecting nothing. Some never get the life they dreamed of, but they build lives that help others dream. She was never called a hero, but she was one. The quiet sister who stayed. The one who sacrificed her dreams so her family could have theirs. The one whose love never needed words to be felt. And if you ever meet someone like her, someone who listens more than they speak, who gives more than they take, who keeps everyone together but rarely asks for help, remember to say thank you. Because behind every strong family, There's always one heart that chose to stay whole, so others wouldn't have to break. That was Aisha, the quiet sister, the one who stayed, loved, and lived, not loudly but beautifully. If this story touched your heart, give it a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more true stories of courage and hope.